Welcome to Mystic Tales 2.0 channel. We hope you will have fun with us. Enjoy watching Arthur, a barber struggling to keep his small shop afloat. Never thought that a simple act of kindness would change his life when he gave a free haircut to a homeless man one rainy afternoon. Little did he know that this small gesture would set off a chain of events he could never have imagined. Just minutes later, the town's mayor appeared, sparking a transformation that would forever alter Arthur's future. Arthur had always been a man of simple pleasures. He ran a small barber shop at the corner of Main Street, just across from the local park. The shop had been passed down from his father, and for years Arthur had served the same loyal customers. But times were tough. The town had seen better days, and many people were struggling to make ends meet. Arthur felt the pinch too. Business was slow, and sometimes the empty chairs in his shop made him worry if he could even keep the lights on. One cold and rainy afternoon, a man wandered into Arthur's shop. His clothes were worn and tattered, his face hidden beneath a rough beard, and his eyes spoke of hardship. The man hesitated near the door as if unsure whether he belonged in a place like this. Arthur looked up from his chair. "Come on in," he said, offering a friendly smile. The man shuffled in slowly, almost as if he feared being turned away. "How much for a haircut?" the man asked, his voice low and tired. Gate could see that this man had seen better days. His gut told him that he probably didn't have much money, if any at all. But something about the man's worn expression touched Arthur's heart. "Don't worry about it," Arthur said softly. "This one's on the house." The man looked surprised. He opened his mouth to argue, but Arthur waved it off. Everyone deserves to feel good about themselves, even if it's just for a little while. The man finally settled into the chair, and Arthur went to work. As he cut away the matted hair, he noticed the man's eyes brighten just a little. There was a moment of quiet peace in the air, broken only by the gentle snip of scissors. By the time Arthur was done, the man almost looked like a new person. "Thank you," the man said, his voice thick with emotion. I don't know how to repay you." Arthur shook his head. "You don't have to, just take care of yourself." The man nodded and walked out into the rainy street. Arthur watched him disappear into the fog, feeling a strange sense of calm. Little did he know that single act of kindness would soon set off a series of events that would change everything. The rest of that day passed quietly as usual. A few regulars came in for a trim, and Arthur made small talk while he worked. But his mind kept drifting back to the man who had walked out into the rain. There was something about him, something that made Arthur wonder about his story, his struggles. He tried to push the thought aside, but it lingered in the back of his mind. As the day drew to a close, Arthur cleaned up the shop and prepared to lock up for the night. Just as he was flipping the sign to closed, a black car pulled up outside. The door opened, and to Arthur's surprise, the mayor stepped out. Mayor Thompson was a man known throughout the town. He was always busy, rarely seen outside of important meetings or events. The sight of him stepping into Arthur's humble shop was nothing short of surprising. "Good evening," the mayor said, offering a polite smile as he stepped through the door. Gay quickly composed himself. "Good evening, Mayor Thompson. What can I do for you?" The mayor glanced around the small shop, his eyes landing on the empty chairs and the old photographs that lined the walls. "I heard from someone that you helped out a man today, a man who needed a bit of kindness." Arthur was taken aback. How had the mayor heard about that already? The encounter had happened just hours ago. He hadn't even told anyone. I just gave him a haircut. It was nothing." "Really?" the mayor nodded, but there was something thoughtful in his gaze. "Sometimes the smallest gestures can have the biggest impact." "That man you helped, he's been living on the streets for a while. People tend to overlook him, but you didn't." Arthur shifted, feeling a little uneasy under the mayor's attention. It was just the right thing to do. The mayor smiled as if satisfied with Arthur's response. "You know, we could use more people like you in this town. People who are willing to help others even when there's no reward in sight." Arthur didn't know how to respond. He wasn't looking for recognition or praise. He had just followed his instincts. "I'm just trying to do my part," he said. After a moment, the mayor nodded again, his expression thoughtful. "Well, I think you'll find that kindness has a way of coming back to you when you least expect it. Keep an eye out. Arthur, you never know what might happen with that." The mayor gave a small wave and left the shop, the black car pulling away into the night. Arthur stood there for a moment, staring at the empty street outside. His mind buzzed with questions. Why had the mayor shown up, and what did he mean by kindness coming back? As Arthur turned off the lights and locked the door behind him, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change, something big. The next few days passed without much incident. Arthur returned to his usual routine, cutting hair for the handful of customers who still came by. But the strange visit from the mayor stayed with him. He replayed their conversation over and over in his mind, wondering what had prompted it. Was it really just a casual stop, or was there something more to it? One afternoon, as Arthur was sweeping up the floor, the door to his shop creaked open again. He looked up expecting another regular, but instead it was the same homeless man from before. This time he looked cleaner, more put together. His hair, still neat from the haircut, made him look like a different person. "Hey there," Arthur said, offering a smile. "Good to see you again." The man nodded, standing awkwardly near the entrance. I wanted to thank you again, that haircut. It really helped me." Arthur waved it off, not wanting to make a big deal of it. "I'm glad it did. How have you been holding up?" The man hesitated before stepping further into the shop. "Better. Actually, after you cut my hair. I was walking around town and I ended up at a shelter. They offered me a place to stay for a while and well, things have been looking up since then." Arthur felt a warmth spread through him. It wasn't often that he got to see the impact of a small gesture like that. "I'm really happy to hear that," he said genuinely. "You deserve a fresh start." The man smiled, but then his expression grew more serious. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "Actually, there's something I need to give you." Arthur frowned. Confused, "What's this?" The man held out the envelope, his hand trembling slightly. "Just open it. It's not for me. Someone else wanted you to have it." Arthur hesitated, but eventually he took the envelope. Inside, he found a neatly folded note along with the check. His eyes widened as he saw the amount written on it. It was a significant sum of money, more than Arthur had ever seen in his life. The note was simple, just a few lines scrawled across the page. "Your kindness didn't go unnoticed. Consider this a token of appreciation for the compassion you showed to someone in need. Use it to keep doing good in this world." There was no signature, no hint as to who had sent it. Arthur stood there, stunned, the check trembling in his hands. "I don't know who it's from either," the man said quietly. "But whoever it is, they wanted you to have it." Arthur looked up at the man, still trying to process what was happening. This is too much. I can't accept this." The man smiled faintly. "I think you were meant to have it, just like I was meant to come into your shop that day." Jay didn't know what to say. The weight of the envelope in his hand felt heavier than anything he'd ever held. This wasn't just money. It was a life-changing gift. The mayor's words from days before echoed in his mind. Kindness has a way of coming back to you when you least expect it. As the man turned to leave, Arthur called out, "Wait, who do you think sent this?" The man paused at the door, his back to Arthur. "I don't know," he said, his voice quiet, "but maybe it's someone who believes in second chances, just like you gave me." With that, the man walked out into the afternoon light, leaving Arthur standing alone in his shop, holding a future he never saw coming. Arthur sat down, still holding the check, his mind spinning. Who could have sent this? The mayor's visit, the homeless man's sudden reappearance. And now this, it all felt like pieces of a puzzle that hadn't quite fit together yet. For the rest of the day, Arthur was in a daze. He tried to go about his normal routine, but the thought of the money weighed on him. This wasn't just a small token of appreciation, it was enough to pay off his debts and keep the shop running. For years he could fix the leaky roof, replace the old chairs, even expand the business. But as much as he wanted to accept the gift, part of him felt unsure. By the time Arthur closed up the shop that evening, he was still lost in thought. As he locked the door and turned to leave, a familiar voice called out to him, "Arthur." He turned to see Mayor Thompson standing on the sidewalk, his hands in his pockets. Arthur wasn't sure if the mayor had come by chance, or if this was another one of those strange, deliberate encounters. "Good to see you again," Mayor Arthur said, forcing a smile. The mayor gave a nod. "I hear you've had quite an eventful few days." Arthur raised an eyebrow, unsure of how much the mayor knew you could say that. Mayor Thompson stepped closer, his expression calm but curious. "That man you helped, did he come back to see you?" Dag nodded slowly. "Yeah, he came back and he brought me this." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the envelope with the check, showing it to the mayor. The mayor glanced at it, his eyes narrowing as he realized what it was. "Ah," he said, as if everything made sense now, "so you've received your reward." Arthur blinked in surprise. "You knew about this?" The mayor gave a small shrug, his eyes twinkling. "Let's just say I had a feeling something like this might happen. People in this town notice things, Arthur, and when someone does good, sometimes that good comes back in ways you don't expect." Arthur shook his head, still overwhelmed. "But this is too much. I don't even know who sent it." Mayor Thompson smiled. "Does it matter? What matters is that you've been given an opportunity, a chance to do something more. You showed kindness to someone when you didn't have to, and now you have the means to keep doing that on a bigger scale." Arthur thought about that. It was true. This money wasn't just about fixing up the shop or getting by. It was an opportunity to help others, to give back in ways he hadn't been able to before. "You know," the mayor continued, "this town could use more people like you, people who care about others and want to make a difference." Arthur looked down at the check again, the weight of it finally settling into his mind. Maybe this wasn't just about him. Maybe it was about something bigger. "What do you think I should do?" Arthur asked, looking up at the mayor. The mayor smiled softly. "I think you already know the answer to that. Just follow your heart with that." Mayor Thompson gave Arthur a nod and walked away into the night, leaving him standing on the sidewalk, the cool evening breeze rustling through the trees. Arthur watched him go, feeling a sense of clarity wash over him. This was more than just a reward. It was a responsibility, and Arthur knew exactly what he was going to do next. The next morning, Arthur woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. The check, which had felt like a heavy burden the day before, now felt like a chance for something bigger, a way to give back to the community that had been struggling just like he had. Arthur spent the next few days thinking carefully about how he could use the money. It wasn't just about his shop anymore. The mayor's words echoed in his mind. "You've been given an opportunity to keep doing good on a bigger scale." With that thought in mind, Arthur made a decision. He would use part of the money to fix up the shop and pay off his debts, but the rest that would go to helping others in the town. People who, like the man he had helped, just needed a little boost to get back on their feet. Arthur started by reaching out to a local shelter, the same one the man had mentioned when he came back after his haircut. He offered to sponsor a program that would provide free haircuts in job interview prep for people staying at the shelter. The shelter staff were thrilled, and soon Arthur's small barbershop became a place of hope for many who had felt forgotten by the world. Word spread quickly. People who had never set foot in Arthur's shop before started coming by, not just for haircuts, but to support what he was doing for the community. And with the extra business, Arthur was able to hire an assistant, someone from the shelter who had been looking for work for months. It was a ripple effect, just like the mayor had said. Arthur's small act of kindness had led to something much bigger, something that was changing lives. Every day, Arthur saw new faces walk into his shop, people who were starting to believe in second chances just like he had. One afternoon, as Arthur was finishing up a haircut for one of his regulars, The door to the shop opened. Once again. Arthur looked up, and there he was, the same homeless man who had walked in that rainy afternoon all those weeks ago. But this time he looked completely different. He was clean-shaven, dressed in a neat suit, and there was a confidence in his posture that hadn't been there before. "Arthur," the man said, smiling, "I wanted to stop by and say, thank you." Arthur put down his scissors, surprised but pleased to see him. "You don't have to thank me," he said. "You did all the hard work. I just gave you a haircut." The man laughed, shaking his head. "It was more than that. You gave me a chance when no one else would. That made all the difference." He paused, then added, "I got a job, by the way, a good one. I'm back on my feet, and it's all because of that day. I walked into your shop." Arthur smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. "I'm really happy for you. You deserve it." The man looked around the shop, noticing the new faces, the buzz of activity, and the changes Arthur had made. "Looks like you've been doing pretty well yourself." Arthur nodded. "Yeah, things have been looking up, but it's not just about me anymore. I wanted to give others the same chance you got." The man's eyes softened. "You're a good man, Arthur. This town is lucky to have you." They shook hands, and as the man walked out of the shop, Arthur felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This wasn't just about a haircut anymore. It was about what that simple act of kindness had grown into, a community that cared for one another, a place where second chances were possible. As the weeks turned into months, Arthur Barbershop became more than just a place for haircuts. It became a symbol of hope, a reminder that one small act of kindness can change the course of someone's life. And Arthur, who had once worried about keeping his shop open, now had something far more valuable than money. He had a purpose. My story ends here. If you feel that this story is meaningful and brings useful lessons, please like and subscribe to the channel to support me. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next videos.